A battle of two undefeated teams, TCU and Kansas. Both of these teams weren't predicted to be undefeated at this point in the season, but here we are. That's college football for you. Of course, Kansas has blown everybody's expectations out of the water, and TCU is coming off a huge win against Gabriel's, Venables, and Oklahoma. But Drew, this Kansas team and a lot of the Kansas players are pretty much unknown. So when we're looking at this Kansas offense, what are a couple players that we need to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, Jalen Daniels, the quarterback for Kansas, has played really well this season. He kind of does it all. He likes to throw the ball a good bit, but he's really good with using his legs and extending drives and getting first downs. Devin Neal, one of their main running back, he's had a pretty decent year. He's averaging over 6 yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even close to 7, if I looked at the stats right. So Kansas has had a lot of playmakers on this team and on this offense, and it's really translated into points being scored on the offensive end. They're 17th in points per game in the country. And they're I think they're top 25 in rushing yards per game too. So a team that likes to keep it on the ground, likes to extend drives for long periods of time, keep the ball out of the other team's hands, and that has really, I think, helped them a lot in the defensive end. Now, Kansas's defense hasn't been great by any means. I think they put together a pretty decent game against Iowa State. I want to say Iowa State threw the ball about 47 or 48 times last week, and Kansas's secondary has struggled a lot in games prior. They're 124th in average yards allowed per game, which is obviously not good, but I think they put together a pretty good showing against Iowa State. And the Iowa State game was a little weird. That was a good win for Kansas. However, I think Iowa State kind of shot themselves in the foot. I mean, their kicker went 1 for 4 on field goals. You cannot do that in any conference game and expect to get a win on the road. But talking about Kansas's defense and this game in particular, Aiden, what do you think after watching TCU's offense and a little bit of the Kansas defense? What do you think Kansas's defense is going to have to key on to really keep TCU out of the end zone?
Yeah, they're going to have to shut down the middle of the field. Of course, we know TCU, they run a version of the air raid offense with hurry up. So they're going to be throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. And that middle of the field is going to be where the majority of those passes are going to go. And when I'm looking at Kansas's defense, a lot of those passes are down the middle of the field. They bite on play action really heavily. And that Iowa State game, the score does not show how bad that defense played. Like you mentioned, the kicker did not kick well. And a lot of those points, when you get into the red zone, you're expecting a touchdown, not a field goal. And Iowa State had multiple opportunities to score in the red zone. They just had stupid mistakes, like you mentioned, that didn't allow them to do that. So they're definitely going to have to lock down in the middle of the field with the linebackers, especially. They're slow in pass coverage, slow to read. On the outside, the corners, they bite on double moves. A couple of double moves should have ended up in touchdowns and did end up in big games for Iowa State. So that's definitely something they're going to have to look out for.
Yeah, and TCU, like you said, they kind of have a version of an air raid. Now, they're not exactly the biggest passing team in the land, but they do have moments where they can kind of snap into an air raid kind of offense for some drives if they have to. But they're very, very dangerous on the ground. Kendre Miller, I think that's a TCU's running back name. If I'm butchering his name, I apologize. But he has done a tremendous job for TCU this year. And TCU has also had other guys carry the ball as well. I mean, they're second in the FBS and total yards per game on the ground. And I don't think it's really going to change much this week. I know Kansas's run defense is a little bit better than the passing defense. But I just think this TCU team is going to be the most talented team Kansas has faced so far. I think in a lot of Kansas's wins, I think it's been very beneficial that Kansas, although they're not as talented, they have played a lot of teams with very similar or less talent. And that's not going to be the case this week. I mean, this TCU team is really, really good. TCU is definitely in the top half of the Big 12 when it comes to overall talent composite. So it's definitely going to make for a interesting matchup for sure. Kansas does get some benefits. One, they have this game at home. Game day is going to be there. The crowd is going to be loud. Usually around this time, Kansas fans are getting ready for basketball, but it's not the case this year. Kansas fans have had a lot to cheer about on the football side of things, and they're going to show up for this game, two unbeaten, a conference matchup. And TCU, I think, is going to have to really lock in for this game. I don't think in any scenario they're going to be able to take Kansas lightly, nor do I think they are. So kind of walking into my prediction here, I know this is a little bit of a shorter of a video, but TCU is going to be way too talented. I think TCU is going to put the ball in the end zone a lot in this game. They're pretty veteran along the offensive side, so I don't think the crowd's really going to rattle them too much. The question is that 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock local time for them going to cause issues in terms of getting a slow start? It's hard to say, but I don't think so. Now, the spread for this game is 7 points. It was 5, and then it moved 2 points in the TCU's favor, so a lot of people, I think, are starting to hammer in TCU a little bit. I would like to pick TCU at 5, but for the purposes of this video, I mean, the spread right now is at 7, so we're going to leave it at 7. But I don't really think it matters. I think TCU is going to win this game by a touchdown or more. I just don't think Kansas really has enough. As great as a story as they've been, I'm not sure if they have enough talent and experience in games like this to really get them over the hump. I think whatever Kansas does from this point on, I mean, this start that they've had has been nothing short of impressive. So regardless if they lose this game and then lose out the rest of the season, Kansas has had a great story. But unfortunately, I think the fairy tale has to come to an end at some point. And I think TCU gets the win on the road.
Yeah, TCU has too many weapons on offense. You mentioned their running back. He's going to be playing on Sundays. And also their receiver, their number one receiver, number one, he's going to be playing on Sundays as well. And they have a plethora of other playmakers at receiver that make plays every time the ball's thrown to them. This is a tale of two different tapes as far as these offenses go. Like I said, TCU runs up-tempo, no huddle. They pass a lot. And Kansas is the exact opposite. They use huddles. They use personnel changes, and they run the ball. They run the ball even on third and medium and third and long with their quarterback, which just tells me that they don't trust them. And this TCU defense, they're pretty good. Now, they do get beat in pass coverage sometimes, but look, that's going to happen when you're playing Oklahoma and they're throwing the ball 40 times a game too. Their run defense is really well. Number 13, Waters, he's their best player on defense by far. He's a monster. So I don't think that this Kansas run game is going to be too much of a threat. Now, if they do get going and keep the ball out of TCU's hands, I could see some problems with it being at Kansas, but I'm going to take TCU. I don't think that they're going to cover with the point spread going from 5 to 7. So it's just making me think it's going to be a close game, just going off how the line's moving. But I'm going to take TCU to win outright, but probably Kansas to cover.
Well, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video, guys. As always, let us know down below in the comment section what you think is going to happen in the game, whether you agree or disagree with our picks, and just be sure to let us know why. Please leave a thumbs up on this video. Helps us out tremendously. You guys have helped us out a lot by doing that, and we really do appreciate it. Also, subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you know every time we post a preview prediction or any other video, you guys can come and be early and watch to see what we have to say. But that's pretty much going to be it for this video, guys. We'll see you in the next one.